Thank you, Premier. Let me just open for him.
Let's switch on this thing. They won't hear you.
Good morning, Premier. I just want to open for him just to introduce my team. I've got my Deputy Provincial Commissioners. I've got the head of the Hawks with us. I've got all the senior managers in the province, especially including the district Francis Bart, where we are. Premier, the crime stats that we are releasing this period is the fourth quarter 24-25 financial year. The crime that we are going to, the stats that we are releasing today is all the cases that were reported to the South African Police Service and were captured by our members in blue and our administration staff in the 92 police stations in the province. In terms of our performance, Premier, we have 17 community reported crimes, and then we had crimes reported due to crimes detected as a result of police actions. Out of the 17 community reported crimes in this quarter, we have achieved the total with decreasing the crime. But when it comes to conduct crime, we didn't achieve mostly. So as a result, out of the 17 community reported crimes, we achieved 10 and didn't achieve 7. Brigadier Mate, the crime stats, we will continue with the presentation of the crime stat. Thank you, Brigadier.
Thanks, Premier and MEC, Provincial Commissioner. All protocol observed, good morning. I will take you through the stats as we are having it. Colonel will proceed with the Premier, from the start, as the PCF already said, we will present the 17 community reported crime, that's crime that was reported to the SAPS by the communities, and we will also touch on the crimes detected as a result of police action during the operations. From the start on the crime stats, the murder. In the quarter from January to March 2025, 112 individuals were murdered in the province. Proceed. Okay. 112 were reported, and that gave us an increase on the murder with 21 cases in the province. Sexual offenses, 413 reported, which give us an increase with 4 cases. When we come to attempted murder, 528 were reported, and we managed to reduce with 8 cases. Assault GBH, 2,083 cases reported, and we've got an increase of 82 cases. Common assault, 1,484 with an increase of 21 cases. Common robbery, 265, we managed to reduce with 24 cases. Robbery with aggravating circumstances, 415 reported, we managed to reduce with 24 cases as well. Unfortunately, for the contact crime as the category in general, 5,250 reported, and we didn't manage to reduce. However, we increased with 72 cases. When we look at the sexual offenses breakdown, the rape, 302 cases were reported, which gives us an increase of 5 cases. Sexual assault, 65 cases reported with an increase of 4 cases. Attempted sexual offenses, 35 cases reported with an increase of 6 cases, with a reduction of 6 cases. Contact sexual offenses, 11 reported with an increase of 1 case. When we look at the subcategory of robbery aggravating, carjacking, 12 were reported, which is stabilized as it was the same number as was reported last year. Robbery at residential premises, 35 reported with a reduction of 2 cases. Robbery at the non-residential premises, which is our businesses, 49 cases reported with an increase of 2. And for the trio crime in total, 96 cases were reported, which is the same number as last year, which is stabilized. Robbery of cash in transit, we are still safe as the province. We don't have any reported, as well as the bank robbery. However, on trafficking, we've got 2 cases reported, and that give us an increase of 2 cases. And those 2 cases both were reported at Kimberley Police Station. And the trucks were, the cargo was groceries. When we move over to contact-related crimes, the arson, 34 cases reported with a reduction of 13 cases. Malicious damage to property, 916 cases reported with an increase of 8 cases. However, for the contact crime, 950 reported when we managed to reduce for the category with 5 cases. When we look at the property-related crime, on this category premium, we did well. Burglary at non-residential premises, 508 reported cases, and we managed to reduce with 41 cases. Burglary at residential premises, 1,303 reported, we managed to reduce with 25 cases. Theft of motor vehicle and motorcycles, 26 reported, we managed to reduce with 7 cases. Theft out or from motor vehicle, 426 reported, we managed to reduce with 38 cases. Stock theft, in total for the property-related crime, 2,467 reported, and we managed to reduce with 170 cases. When we move over to other serious crimes, all theft not mentioned elsewhere, with an increase of 15 cases. Commercial crime, 608 reported with an increase of 69 cases. Shoplifting cases. Other serious crimes in total, 2,662 reported with an increase of 29 cases. However, when we look at the 17 community reported crime in total, 11,329 reported with a reduction of 74 cases. When we look at now the crimes detected as a result of police action, when we come to this one, a premium, the counting is different. When we increase is where we performed. So when we see the green, it means we increased on the performance. So illegal possession of firearms, 16 were recovered, which gives us an increase of 4 with performance. Drug-related, 771 with an increase of 35, which is good. Driving under the influence of alcohol, 115 reported with an increase of 10. Sexual offences detected as a result of police action, only 1, the same as last year. And for the crimes detected as a result of police action in total, 903 reported, and that gives us an increase of 49 cases. That is how we are standing on the crime. We will now go to the trends over the month. For the 17 community reported crime, the trends, we didn't do well in January with an increase of 61 cases. However, in February, we did well with a reduction as well as March. And for the 17 community reported crime, the district that didn't do well is Francis Bart as well as JTG. Namakwa, Pixlikaseme, and ZF did well. When we move over to the 17 community reported, the top 10 stations, I will only highlight Rwedepan, which is the one that increased daily with 90 cases, as well as Mutivistat, which increased with 149 on our 17 community reported crime. Then we move over to the contact crimes, the trends. Next slide. When we look at the contact crime, which is now crimes against the person, we didn't do well in January as well, with an increase of 112 cases. However, in February, we managed to reduce with 12 cases, and in March with 28 cases. And the district that didn't do well is Francis Bart, JTG, and ZF. And Namakwa and Pixlikaseme did well. And for the province, we didn't do well with an increase of 1.4%. The top 30 stations, the highest that did well is Mtibistat with an increase of 53, followed by Rosedale with an increase of 49, as well as Jankep with increase of 54, and also Kalishi with an increase of 43. And the station that get the highest decrease there is Postmansberg with minus 50 cases. When we look at the MEDA, the trends for the MEDA, as we've already alluded, that we've got 112 people killed in the province with an increase of 21. We didn't do well in January with an increase of 19. In February, we managed to reduce with 1. And in March, the district that didn't do well is JTG with an increase of 7. Pixley-Kaseme increased with 5, and as well as ZF with an increase of 10. And we didn't do well as a province as well. The MEDA top 10 stations, the ones that increased highly, is Rosedale, which increased with 8 cases, followed by Butchitong, which increased with 4 cases. And the stations that did well on the top 30 is Rosedale, Rodipan, which decreased with 3, as well as Sunrise, which decreased with 1 from the top 30. When we look at the the positive factors, as we always say, the problem that we are faced with is the issue of arguments, misunderstanding, or road rage or provocation, with a total of 101 cases, followed by 1 of robbery, and the robbery was just the issue of the robbing of the cell phone, and the person ended up being killed, and that was inwarranted. When we move over to the place of occurrence, Premier, the problem is a public place with 50 cases, followed by residence of perpetrator victim, including the residence of known by victims of perpetrator with 43. Then multiple murder, we only have 1 case. That was the issue of domestic violence, whereby an uncle killed the sister and the nephew in Butchitong, but he was arrested, and the sister was 33-year-old and the nephew was 10 years old. When we look at the frequently used instrument, as we always say, Premier, is still the problem with the knives. In total, 54 murders were committed with a knife. So, as the police in the period, we managed to confiscate 282 knives during the operations. When we move to murder of police officers, we are lucky as a province, Premier. We didn't have any member of our women and men in blue being murdered in the period. We appreciate that. Murder of the farming community, Premier, we only have 2 incidents, but these incidents were only farm workers who were killed. The first one, they were fighting at the compound, and there were 2 farm workers, and the second one, it was a girlfriend and boyfriend. The girlfriend stabbed the boyfriend and he passed on, and they are also workers at the farm. When we move over to the rape, the trends for the rape, we didn't do well in January with an increase with 18 cases, and in February with 14 cases. However, in March we managed to reduce with 27 cases. And the district that didn't do well on the rape is JTG with an increase of 9, Namakwa increased with 8, ZFM increased with 21. And we can see ZF is the only district that increased with double digit on the rape. When we look at the top 30 stations, Mtibistat is the one that increased with 16 cases, and the ones that decreased highly is Batarus with minus 10 cases on the top 30. When we look at the place of occurrence for the rape, the one that is taking the lead is residence of perpetrator victim, including the residence known by victim or perpetrator or family or friend, and that is 161, followed by public places or open spaces. When we look at the issue of the substance abuse and everything, thereby liquor and drugs. Premier, we have got 325 cases where alcohol was used, and this is the highest contributor for our cases. For when we look at the murder, 1 was the drug related and 4 was the alcohol related, attempted murder, 3 drug related, and 61 was liquor related. When we look at the rape, 14 was drug related and 62 was alcohol related. And when we look at assault GBH, 12 was drug related and 198 were liquor related. And when we look at, in total, the confirmed incidents that occurred at the liquor outlets or tavern or pub, we've got assault GBH at 185, rape 1, attempted murder 43, and 4 murder. Then murder at educational premises, we are lucky we don't have. When we look at the rape at educational premises, we've got only 2 cases that happened in ZF. And when we look on the next slide, what happened here, Premier, the one at Pavalelo, it's a learner, against a learner, is a 6-year, was raped by a 15-year-old. At Lukaniso Primary School, and the one at Postmansberg, it was a 6-year boy. It is alleged he was raped by his own father in a vehicle just outside the fence at the school. Then when we look at the selected domestic violence related cases, we've got, for murder, we've got 3, male, we've got 8, that means for the murder, domestic related is 11, attempted murder 49, rape 23, sexual assault 5, assault with the intent to inflict grievous bodily harm 225, common assault 323, common robbery 6, robbery with aggravated circumstances 2, all theft mentioned elsewhere is 52, malicious damage 142, and burglary at residential premises 23. Those are the DV related crimes that was reported. When we move over to the subcategory of robbery aggravating, we look at the carjacking. Next slide. When we look at the carjacking, Premier, we managed in January, we didn't do well with an increase of 1. February, we've got constant with 3, the same as last year, and in March, we managed to reduce with 1. Look at the district, Francis Bart, 3 cases were reported, 2 in Kimberley, 1 in Rodipan. And when we look at JTG, it's 2 in Motivistat. ZFM, we've got 3 Postmansberg, 2 Uppington, 1 Kakamas, and 1 Kamos. And when we look at it, ZF is still on the carjacking, the highest contributing district. And then there's the next slide is only showing the stations that are involved in the crime. And the next one is where now it shows the types of truck. We've got 2 trucks that was hijacked. LDVs was 5, and sedans were 7. And out of the LDVs, the 2 were Toyota, 1 Ford, 1 Isuzu, 1 Datsun. And when we look at the sedan, it is 3 Toyota, 3 VW, and 1 Opel sedan. And for the period, 4 LDVs were recovered, and 6 sedans were recovered, and all these were recovered in the province. So it means our suspects are within the province. When we move over to the robbery at residential premises, Premier, we did well in January with a reduction of 1. In February, we've got constant with 9 cases reported, and in March, we've got a reduction. The only district that didn't do well is Francis Bart with an increase of 4, Namako with an increase of 2, Kipslika Seme increased of 1. However, for the province, we managed to reduce with 2. When we look at the robbery at residential premises, the top 10, 30, we look at Khalishiwe and Sunrise. Those are the 2 that increased with 3 cases each. When we look at the robbery at non-residential premises, which is our businesses, we did well in January and February. However, in March, we didn't do well with an increase of 9. And the district that did well is only Namakwa and Pixley-Kaseme with a reduction of 6 and 5, respectively. And the top 30 stations, the target there is Kuruman and Rosedale, which increased with 4 and 3 cases, respectively. Robbery of cash in transit, we are very proud as a province because we don't have this type of crime, and we appreciate it. Drug checking, as we have already touched on it, is only 2 cases that were reported in Kimberley. And on both cases, the suspects pretended to be traffic officers when they stopped the trucks, and only groceries was taken. On the one case, it was grocery of 148,000, and the other one is grocery of 100,000 cases of the grocery. Then it's only showing that these 2 cases. We can pass that slide. Then we move over to kidnapping. We still have a problem with kidnapping in the province. However, in January, we managed to reduce with 5. In February, we increased with 4, and in March, we increased with cases. Namakwa reduced with 1. However, ZF increased with 8 cases, and increased with 6 cases. And when we look at ZF, the station that increased slightly is Postmansberg with an increase of 4 cases. The kidnapping stations, as we can see, all of them are there, but they are all reported under 5 cases. When we look at the circumstances, causative factors for kidnapping, we've got 2 cases for ransom and 1 case for extortion. On the one of extortion, an amount of 90,000 was demanded, and on the ransom one, on the one case it was only 2,100, and on the other one it was 2,000. When we move over now, Premier, this slide is the core diversions. This is now the situations whereby, or the incidents which diverts our resources from the normal crime prevention mandates. Now we have to police the protest. And out of this, the peaceful protest were 39 and the unrest were 70 in the province. And that is all from my side. I will hand over back to the PC. Okay. Thanks, Premier.
Thank you, Premier. Premier, let me start by thanking the people of the Northern Cape for not taking law into their own hands and allow the justice cluster to comply with our mandate. Even in this reporting period, Premier, we don't have a single case of people taking law into their own hands. Premier, I'm not going to repeat the crime stats as the Brigadier has indicated. I will continue to say how I will respond to the crime if we are not be able to prevent. That means we need to continue and resolve the crime. Let me start by extortion, Premier. In this period, we had a case. The province, the business are not reporting extortion, Premier. We will be called for crowd management, and when we go there, the complainant doesn't open a case, but he wants us to deal with the police. But during this period, we had a case, a new first case in DR, where the contractor called us to say there are people that are demanding employment in the new contractor. So the contractor called the police. We went there, we opened the case, and he identified the people that were saying, you will remove the contractor that is in place, you will employ our people according to the list we are going to give you. If you are not going to do that, we are going to deal with you. So he opened the case. Fortunately, he knew the people, and we managed to arrest 3. That was outside this reporting period, but it happened this year. So we dealt with those, arrested those 3, and now the construction is taking place. I would like to appeal to the people of the Northern Cape. Extortion is a serious offense. And if one is found guilty, they go to jail. So let's not go and demand employment by force at construction sites and other workplaces. In terms of our successes, Premier, with all the reported crime in the province, our detectives and specialized units are hard at work by investigating, arresting, and taking the perpetrators to court, and our courts are ensuring that those that are found guilty are facing the full might of the law. In respect of tampering with infrastructure, which is a problem in the province, our flash office, that is an office that is dealing with second-hand goods and liquor, in this period, we managed to confiscate 62 copper pipes. We confiscated 1,904,545 grams of copper cables. We confiscated 1 electrical cable for a farm. We had 125 operations. We did 566 compliance inspections. We issued 8 fines and arrested 6 suspects. And in terms of the gender-based violence, Premier, our FCS, we managed for this period to have 2 life sentences, 4 20-year convictions, 1 40 years convictions, 5 15 years convictions, 1 10 years, 1 for 6 years, 1 for 5 years, and then 2 15 years for robbery. In addition to our successes, Premier, we had the following arrests during this period. We had 110 people arrested for murder, 480 for attempted murder, 1,562 for assault GBH, 625 for common assault, 114 for common robbery, 175 for robbery with aggravating circumstances, 196 for rape, 40 for sexual assault, 24 for attempted sexual assault, 2 for hijacking, 26 for robbery at residential premises, 46 for robbery at business premises, 17 arrests for arson, 525 for malicious damage to property, 129 for burglary, residence, and then 361 for burglary business premises, 7 for theft of motor vehicle, 1 for theft out of motor vehicle, 69 for theft not mentioned elsewhere, and then 2 for commercial crime, 217 for shoplifting, 43 for kidnapping, 17 for illegal possession of firearm and ammunition, 310 for drug-related crimes, 69 for drunk and driving, 1 for sexual offenses detected as a result of police action. In addition to that, Premier, in our members are out there doing arrests on serious crime, especially gender-based violence, murders, and rape. In Butitong, 1 suspect was arrested, a 39-year-old, for murder following the discovery of a body of a 22-year-old female in a culvert at Castle in Butitong on Tuesday, the 7th of January 2025. The police preliminary investigation indicates that the victim was allegedly assaulted by the suspect in the house in the village, tied up, transported in the boot of a car, and dumped at the culvert. That case is still pending at court. And then in Nababib, 32-year-old was sentenced 15 years for the murder of a 43-year-old by the regional court in Namakwa. That on the 2nd of March 2024, at approximately 9:25, the accused and a lady acquaintance were walking home from town when they got involved in an argument with the suspect. As the argument progressed, the accused entered the yard and stabbed the victim once in the chest. John Field died on the scene, and the accused, Fernando Biekes, was immediately arrested by the police. He was sentenced in the regional court on the 28th of January to 15 years imprisonment for the murder, and of which 5 years is suspended for a period of 5 years, and was declared unfit to possess a firearm. Another suspect was arrested for a murder in Kuruman. The investigation of a murder of 17-year-old after his body was found near an abandoned vehicle on the Siuding Road in Kuruman. He was last seen on the 11th of February 2025 at 7 when he left home. His daughter reported his missing to the police on the 12th of February 2025. She noticed his locked buggy along the road abandoned, and then a search ensued, and the father was found dead, and the suspect was arrested. That case is also pending in court. 2 suspects were arrested. A double murder plus 40 years imprisonment for a Kimberley cyberbully for rape and murder was passed during this period on the 18th of February 2025. This case happened when Itumeleng Bendo Muchabe, 25-year-old, was sentenced for murder, for rape, for extortion, fraud and criminal injuria, and child pornography in the Northern Cape High Court. The cyberbully was found guilty on 18 charges, which include the rape and murder of 11-year-old Relebogile Sakami. Machame later dumped her body in the field behind the Provincial Legislature building in Khalishiwe in March 2022. He was also convicted of raping 3 minors with the age of between 13 and 15 years for extortion, for fraud, for criminal injury, and child pornography. Machabe lured his victims through a fake Facebook account pretending to be a 16-year-old lesbian female and posted explicit videos of their nude full body pictures and later blackmailed them. The incident took place between 2013 and 2022 in Kimberley. The accused was arrested on the 31st of March 2022 and remained in custody until he was sentenced on the 18th of February 2025 by the Kimberley High Court. The court handed down a double life sentence and 40 years imprisonment. And then in Pietersville, the Philip Sound Regional Court handed down a 15 years imprisonment sentence to Katrina Lumkwana on the 6th of March 2025. On Tuesday, 21 May 2024, the 38-year-old accused stabbed the partner, Frikvet Boy, in the stomach, which led to the victim's hospitalization. The accused was arrested for attempted murder and later charged for murder after the victim succumbed to his injuries in hospital. She was sentenced on the 8th of June for 2024. He was hospitalized on the 8th of June 2024. And then in Forsberg, a teenager was sentenced for murder and assault by the regional court in Carnarvon. A 16-year imprisonment sentence for Byron Moritz, 19, for the murder of Henry Williams, 40, and the assault of his girlfriend. During the early hours of 27 July 2024, the accused was drinking with William and his girlfriend. When an argument broke out, the accused fatally stabbed him and assaulted his girlfriend. Moritz was subsequently arrested and sentenced on the 15th of February 2024 for the murder and assault GBH. And then in Carnarvon, a man was convicted for 20 years for murder on the 26th of February 2025. Adrian van Wyk, 21, for murder of Maria Danster, 32. On the 31st of March 2023 in Carnarvon, the accused and the victim, both employed on the farm where the incident occurred, were involved in a dispute. The accused retrieved a firearm belonging to his employer and he shot Danster in the head. He then buried his body in a shallow grave. Van Wyk joined the search for Danster after she was reported missing. During the investigation into her disappearance, he exhumed her remains and discarded them along the road. He was arrested shortly thereafter and he remained in custody until he was convicted. He was, for count 1 of murder, was given 20 years, for count 2 illegal possession of firearm, 15 years, count 3 illegal possession of ammunition, 10 years, count 4 appropriation of another person's property, 10 years, count 5 defeating the end of justice, that was 5 years, violation of the corpse, 10 years, and for count 2 and count 3 will be running concurrently as one count. And then on another conviction, a murder of a businessman in Kimberley, Pete Els, on the 24th of January 2018 at about 05 in the morning, Pete Els, 86 years, and his female partner, 67 years, were brutally assaulted and tortured at Carter's Ridge Farm near Kimberley. Els sustained traumatic head injuries and died 111 days later in hospital. His partner was sexually and physically assaulted in the attack. The accused fled with the money, jewelry, Kruger Rents, 2 firearms, cell phones, a Mercedes-Benz, and other valuables. Police followed up on information of the stolen vehicle as well as other valuables were recovered. The accused were arrested in Mpumalanga, KZN, and Kimberley respectively between 2018 and 2020. The accused were sentenced in the Northern Cape High Court on the 11th of March 2025. Accused number 1, 28 years old, was sentenced 3 years wholly suspended for 5 years for theft. Accused number 2, 37 years old, was sentenced to 20 years for house robbery, for house breaking with intent to rob and robbery with aggravating circumstances, 5 years for sexual assault, and a life imprisonment for murder. Accused number 3 was 56 years, a lady who received 10 years for house breaking with intent to rob and robbery. Accused number 4, 68 years old man, sentenced to 10 years for house breaking with intent to rob and robbery. Accused number 5, 44 years, was sentenced to 20 years for house breaking with intent to rob and robbery, and then 5 years for sexual assault and a life imprisonment for murder. Accused number 6, who was 63 years old, was convicted for 10 years imprisonment for house breaking with intent to rob and rob. And accused number 7, 62-year-old, was sentenced to 20 years for house breaking with intent to rob and robbery and rob. And then in Hartswater, and 3 accused were sentenced for murder. On the 26th of July 2020, the victim, Daniel Brandt, 83, and his wife, Bregi Brandt, 73, and her daughter, Elsabi Brandt, 54, were at their residence on their plot at Mahokong near Hartswater. They were violently attacked by the accused, Donald Siuluseng, Tsepo Fisahi, and Tsepano Mulatu. The victims sustained serious blunt force injuries on their heads and bodies. They were buried in their property, and they were robbed on their property. 2 vehicles, a Nissan Micra and a Mazda, and then 3 laptops, cell phones, and handbags with personal belongings. They were found dead on the 28th of July 2024. The suspects were arrested in us by the detectives and K9, and they were sentenced by the Kimberley High Court. All of them, they were found guilty, and they were sentenced for defeating the end of justice, for murder, for assault, GBH, and a robbery with aggravating circumstances. They all have received 15 years imprisonment, 25 years imprisonment, and 25 years imprisonment, and a 15 imprisonment with an additional of 2 years imprisonment for defeating the end of justice. There is a lot of other imprisonment premiers that I'm not going to read. I'll come to the successes of FCS. Our FCS unit received a total of 576 cases during the reporting period. They effected 439 arrests, and they received 2 life sentence convictions, and then 1 less than 1 year conviction, 7 from 1 to 5 years, 12 for 5 to 10 years, and 9 for 10 to 22 years imprisonment. And then Commissioner Premier, I'll go to the successes of the Hawks. The Hawks in the province are dealing with serious organized crime, serious commercial crime, and other serious offenses according to our determination. They are hard at work in the province, and for the period premier, they had 2 arrests for serious corruption, and they had 2 convictions. And then they had 23 arrests for serious commercial crime with 15 convictions. They had 3 arrests for serious organized crime with 38 convictions. They had 2 convictions for trafficking in persons. In total, they had 46 arrests and 57 convictions for the reporting period. And then organized crime at the detective service, they had received 53 cases with 25 inquiries. They had 11 arrests, and the unit had 6 convictions for the reporting period. One of the convictions was the one of Pete Els, and the other one was the farm robbery in Hartswater. Premier, in terms of our operation, we are still continuing Operation Chanela, which started in 2023. We are still hard at work with our detectives, including our law enforcement agencies that are assisting us. As part of these operations, we had 477 stop and searches, 34 vehicles checkpoints, and 2,247 individuals researched, and 1,546 vehicles. We had compliance inspection in terms of our second-hand goods, and we had confiscations of drugs, firearms, cocaine, menrex, dacha, and tek. In addition to the enforcement actions, we had awareness campaign programs around the province. We are going for safer schools. We are looking at bullying, teenage pregnancies, domestic violence, use and sale of drugs, and substance abuse. Premier, we had in our operations a team of Gift of the Givers, where we assisted them in ZFM for distributing food parcels and blankets for winter in affected families. We are remaining committed in maintaining law and order through our operations and disrupting operations, and we are urging the community to use our my subs, and to call on 086 with Varam Godi, the operations that involve illegal mining in the province. During this period, we arrested 320. We issued 35 fines. Out of these suspects, 240 were South Africans and 120 were foreign nationals. In the breakdown of the arrest of Varam God, were 240 South Africans, 47 Basotho nationals, 7 Malawians, 40 Zimbabweans, 6 Mozambicans, 16 Nigerians, 4 Ethiopians. That is a total of 360. And then we recovered 2 vehicles, 6 jackhammers, 5 generators, and 51 spades and shovels, 14 cell phones, 28 rock lobster in terms of our operation Paseka that deals with marine resources. We have confiscated 87 dangerous weapons. We recovered 124.35 grams of tek, 2,746 grams of dacha, 77 bungies of crystal meth, 9.283 grams of raw cocaine, 27 raw diamonds, 348 mandrax tablets, 262,100 ml liquor. We confiscated 2 firearms, a number of ammunition, and in addition to the drugs, we also confiscated 2,960 grams of 296 grams of dacha, 667 Ziplocs, 763 mandrax tablets, 5.4 grams of tek, 107 bungies of crystal meth. We are continuing with our roadblock stops and searches, high visibility, and compliance inspections at second-hand dealers. In conclusion, Premier, collaboration with all departments and stakeholders in fight against crime in the province is yielding fruitful results. I had the pleasure of presenting 4 vehicles to 4 districts in the province, that is for CPF. The main purpose is to ensure that the community policing would be improved and to enhance optimal functionality. Out of that, Premier, I still owe the CPF 2 vehicles, one for Francis Bart and one for the provincial board. We have given Pixel Kaseme, we have given Namako, we have given ZFM, we have given JTG, each an SUV for community policing. The vehicles were handed over to the CPF chairpersons, but they will be driven by the members of the South African Police Service for the purpose of working of the CPF. The initiative is to support the 2030 vision that seeks to root out causes of crime, leading to a stage where people living in the South Africa and in the province will feel free and have no fear of crime. While handing over the keys to the brand new vehicles, I reminded the officers that these vehicles are only for the sole purpose of fighting crime and not for misuse. I thank you, Premier.
Thank you very much, Premier. We will now hand over to the MEC.
Thank you very much, Naledi. Let me greet and acknowledge the presence of our Honorable Premier, Dr. Zamani Saul, our Provincial Commissioner, General Otola, the head of the Hawks. Let me also greet and acknowledge our HOD, Mr. Robin Peters, the senior managers of SAPS, also of the Department of Transport Safety Liaison and the Office of the Premier, members of the media, ladies and gentlemen, good morning once more. Premier, thank you very much for this opportunity. We came from a crime in Ghana last week, Premier. We convened all stakeholders in the fight against crime in Kuruma in the JTG district. One thing that we agreed, Premier, in the Indaba was that crime is a societal matter. The impact of crime affects all of us. Honorable Premier, we welcome this morning we welcome the crime stats as announced by the previous financial year. We can see the hard work done by our women and men in blue. Premier, I have visited a number of police stations in the province, as well as 2 government garages where our vehicles are being prepared by the garages. I interact with the members of SAPS on the front line in terms of fighting crime in the province, and I can assure Premier they are eager to serve. I would request the Premier to join us as we will be visiting the Kimberley police station that continues to be in the national top 30. In the previous quarter, Premier, the third quarter, we had 5 police stations that were in the top 30 in the country, but we reduced it to only 1, which is the Kimberley police station. The Crime Indaba explore a number of topics that affect our citizens. We develop strategies to serious crime in the province like gender-based violence, rural safety, and contact crimes. And the role of local government in the fight against crime, Premier, is very, very important. We highlighted that when we have these Indabas, that the key stakeholder in the Indaba must be local government. We trust that the plan developed at the Indaba will reduce crime in crime-weight stations like Kimberley Station and other stations that was presented by SAPS or districts that was presented by SAPS. Premier, although some of the crimes have increased in some of the districts, we can proudly attest what the PC was presented. There are arrests being made and convictions. And we really want to thank the police, the South African Police Services, for their effort to make sure that we fight crime in our province by arresting those perpetrators. The department recently appointed young people in crime-weight stations across the province to implement social crime initiatives in all those affected stations in our province. Premier, gender-based violence and femicide remains our main focus as the department. We will focus on the role alcohol play in escalating of gender-based violence in the province. We saw in the presentation that really, Premier, that alcohol is a big, big problem. I want to call it an enemy, but I must now pick my words very carefully. I can't call.
Are you not picking alcohol?
No, not at all, Premier. We, the easy accessibility of alcohol is a real concern, especially when it leads to incidents like gender-based violence and femicide. We also want to really, Premier, thank our CPFs throughout the province for their contribution and all other stakeholders that join hands to fight crime in our province. We really want to thank them to make sure that we clean our streets from criminals and perpetrators in the province. We have complete confidence, Premier, in our subs to fight crime in the province. We request our women and men in blue to enforce law with no fear or favor. And what I always said to when I address the police and the traffic officers, Premier, is that whenever they execute their responsibilities, they must not lose themselves in the process. Because nowadays we see on social media a lot of pics and videos that are circulated, and sometimes those who are circulating those videos are only circulated the reaction, Premier, and not the action that leads to the reaction. And that is why I always caution them to say, tem jou 'n bietjie self in wanneer jy jou werk doen. Jy moenie vir jouself in die proses verloor nie. Allow us to thank all our subs members under the stewardship of our General Otola for their hard work and dedication. Also the Department of Transport Safety and Liaison under the stewardship of Ntate Rodney Peterson. Let me also thank Premier for your unwavering support throughout for the department and your guidance and your leadership in this province. We are really honored to have someone like our Premier who is very grounded and not fear not to go into any household when there is a matter or something that needs attention of government. Thank you very much, Honorable Premier. We really appreciate your support. Let us continue to serve our communities with pride and dignity. I thank you.
Thank you, MEC. We'll now hand over to the Premier just before we take questions.
Thank you very much, Naledi, and let me greet the MEC responsible for transport safety and liaison, MEC Koloi, and let me also greet our provincial commissioner, Lieutenant General Otola, together with her team. We are quite excited to hear that for the fourth quarter of 2024-25, there's no fatalities reported from the men and women in blue, and I think that's one significant takeaway, because it hurts all of us when there's an attack on our police officials. Let me also greet the head of the Hawks, Major General Manuela. We're very grateful to have you here as part and parcel of the enforcement team, law enforcement team. And let me greet the HOD for Department of Transport, Safety and Liaison, Rodney Peterson, representatives of the unions, representatives of the Community Police Forum, and I see we've got some few media houses. You are also greeted, ladies and gentlemen. Allow me to express my appreciation to the management of the South African Police Service, led by our Provincial Commissioner General Otola, for the detailed presentation of the fourth quarter crime statistics of 2024-2025, which have just been presented. The release of the crime stats provides a barometer to measure whether we are on track to ensure the safety of the people of the Northern Cape. It also provides us with crucial statistics and indicators on where we need to improve to ensure that we serve and protect the people of the Northern Cape. It is clear that these quarterly statistics reflect a complex crime environment with improvements in property-related and robbery crimes, but with persistent concerns in murder, assault, sexual offenses, and commercial crimes. These quarterly crime statistics are also presented during a time wherein the spotlight is once again on gender-based violence. Over the past weekend, we witnessed the burial of a 17-year-old victim of gender-based violence. We send our heartfelt condolences to the family of Alizwa Ndlala on the passing of their daughter. We trust that the police will work speedily to ensure that the perpetrators in this and many other cases are swiftly brought to justice. Concerning is the increase in rape, sexual offenses, and contact sexual offenses. The provincial government supports the efforts of SAPS to deal effectively with this scourge through various collaborative and advocacy programs. We urge the 16th Family Violence, Child Protection and Sexual Offences Unit in the province to intensify their work at ensuring that perpetrators of crimes committed against women and children are arrested and that these cases are successfully prosecuted. I think the Lieutenant General just gave us now quite encouraging figures of conviction of people who are involved in gender-based violence and femicide. I think that is quite encouraging, and it actually bears testimony to the quality of investigation by our investigating officers in the province, and I think we need to strengthen that capacity. We have also taken note of the concern over the murder rate in the province raised by the National Minister, Mr. Senzo Mchunu, during the release of the National Crime Statistics last month. Murder cases in the province have increased by 23.1% from 91 to 112 incidences, predominantly driven by disputes, non-domestic arguments. Knives once again remain the prevalent weapon. Males constitute the primary victim, often within known residential or public settings. We are of the firm view that proactive crime prevention methods lay a solid foundation in the fight against crime. Active community involvement in the fight against crime is important. The success in building safer communities require a collaborative approach between government, communities, business and non-government organizations to work together in a coordinated way to develop and implement strategies to address the short and long-term causes of crime. Kidnapping has also emerged as an increasing concern crime type, increasing by 7 incidents. Extortion and ransom related kidnapping indicate organized criminal operations targeting individuals for financial gain. To clamp down on kidnappings in our province and against these emerging trends such as extortion. Our overall approach at fighting crime requires us to continue to do the basic things right and with greater focus. I'm happy also with the report which we just received from the General that cars have been made available for people who are involved in crime prevention, the community police forums, and I think that's a tool of work. I think Lieutenant General Otola is correct to say it should not be used for any other purpose, but it should be used in the fight against, those cars should be used in the fight against crime. The involvement of our community police forums, as well as targeted social interventions, will be invaluable in mitigating community-based conflicts, driving assault and murder rates. It is also quite apparent that our sustained high crime areas require continued targeted policing, coupling with intelligence-led crime prevention and socio-economic intervention. There is a need to break from the silo approach in addressing crime in these areas. Our anti-crime efforts need a whole of government approach if we dare to be successful in our fight against crime. Importantly, ladies and gentlemen, our fight against crime also necessitates the use of technology, from the protection of our infrastructure to the protection of our communities. The evolving nature and scope of criminal activities require that we respond in a manner that is intelligent and effective. The use of technology coupled with strategic collaborations involving the private sector will put us in a position to effectively mitigate the socio-economic devastation caused by crime and criminality. I want to encourage members of the SAPS to double their efforts in ensuring that we fight crime and build safer communities, with particular focus on gender-based violence and femicide. I wish to commend the successful multi-agency intervention, such as Operation Shanela, Vala Umgodi. It's just unfortunate that soldiers have been withdrawn from this operation, and our cross-border initiatives, which have illustrated targeted responses, resulting in numerous arrests, drug seizures, and disruption of criminal activities. As a provincial government, we pledge our total commitment and support to bring about safer communities. With these few words, I wish to express my appreciation to the men and women in blue who have dedicated their lives in the fight against crime, and implore them to remain committed and loyal to their call of duty. We also call upon our police to show zero tolerance to crimes of all nature. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Premier. We now open up for any questions from the media. We've got the SABC here. There's also Rivelo and Karabo from Manna. We also have some media on our online platform, on Germany FM. Taking a question, please.
My name is Kato and I'm from Radio Telani. My question is, does the department have a plan to improve the relationship between the community and the police so that they can keep on crime?
Karabo? Thank you very much. So those are the two questions.
Thank you, Premier Karabone. Number one, we are not happy with the increase of rape and murder in the province. It seriously is affecting a person, and it's affecting women and children and the elderly. We have our plans in place. That is why there's a lot of convictions. Our detectives are properly trained, and our crime prevention operationals are also trained in investigating and prevention of these crimes. We have a serious challenge with the crimes that are happening inside houses, especially most of our murders is people that know each other. They were in the dwelling, they were enjoying each other. The next thing, they fight and they kill each other. Our rape case is the same. It's happening within the homes within a setting where everybody knows each other, and then they attack each other. We are dealing with our high-density operations in terms of crime prevention outside the home setting. We need the community inside the houses to have a way of resolving arguments instead of resorting to violence. We have our operations in terms of dangerous weapons because most of our murders in the province and our attacks are caused by, are done with knives. There's a few firearms there and there, and we are enhancing our operations in terms of dealing with illegal weapons and firearms as well. We are confiscating them. And as well as in terms of rape, we've got our 16 FCS units that are seriously dealing with rape cases and the crimes against women and children. We also have our cyber unit in the provincial office that is also dealing with sexual offenses. So I can safely say that we are really at work, we are dealing with those offenses, and would like to have a situation where we don't have rape cases and murder in the province. And then in terms of community relationship with the police, we have CPFs in all the 92 police stations in the province, and we're making sure that we engage our communities. Like when the MEC was speaking now, just last week, we had a community crime prevention in Daba, in JTG Mutibistad. That is where we engage our communities to say there is crime in the province and we need each other to deal with crime, because the police cannot deal with crime on their own. The crime is happening within the community. They know what is happening there, and if we work hand in hand with the community, we are able to deal with crime. I've seen with our successes that most of them, the community are coming forward. They are telling us where the crime is committed. That is why we are able to go and reach out and deal with crime. Thank you, Premier.
Generally, what emerges out of this report, two major concerns: crime and it's murder and rape. Yeah. No. Oh, no. What I'm saying, what emerges out of this report, two major concerns: murder and rape. And if you want to broaden it, sexual offenses, I think it's a serious concern. With the last quarter report, we had a decline on both. And in this quarter report, we've got increase on both. So it is a major concern.
Thank you very much, Premier. There being no other questions, we will then adjourn this session, so the session has come to an end. We now invite the media to the handover of law enforcement vehicles that will be done by the Department of Transport, Safety and Lighting. Thank you very much. Thank you.
I told them the second time we connect and I'll get feedback from them.